All right, guys, happy Tuesday, and we are sorry that we are late today with this episode. We wanted to make sure that we had the most up-to-the-minute information pertaining to the Tate brothers. Yes, Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate. They have been detained yet again in Romania. The story is getting crazy, just absolutely crazy. Plus, later on the show, we have for you a prison reform advocate. He went viral because he appeared on Joe Rogan talking about the ills, of course, in and out. Thank goodness he got another opportunity to walk the streets because he's now been arrested for allegedly decapitating a man. Oopsies, maybe not the best prison reform advocate. And later on, we're going to discuss Lady Gaga. She is deeply upset because she doesn't believe that Dylan Mulvaney should receive any backlash for celebrating International Women's Day. Yep, all that and more today coming up on Candace Owens. All right, Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate, let's jump right into this. The first thing that I want to say, I'm always very honest about the fact that there is a pre-existing friendship here. What am I talking about? I've shared this many times, but my husband and Andrew Tate have been friends for years, and they were friends longer than my career has been. So when I met my husband, he was already friends with Andrew Tate, and I had met Andrew Tate twice. And just to be clear, he was always very kind to me. This was before he really blew up and became the 8th most Googled person, in the world. Anyways, you guys know how the story goes. Last year, I went out to Bucharest to interview Andrew Tate. I was really interested in how he had achieved so much fame. He's suddenly so relevant, a topic of debate within the UK school system. They're banning Andrew Tate. Don't talk about Andrew Tate. Just an interesting conversation and dialogue to have. But of course, I caught a ton of heat. And the reason why I caught a ton of heat was because Andrew Tate within Romania was charged with human trafficking and forming a criminal gang, to sexually exploit women. Both him and his brother, plus 2 Romanian women, were arrested in Bucharest in December of 2022. Now, to be clear, despite being arrested, there were no charges that were brought against them until 6 months later. So imagine that, 6 months after your arrest, you get charged. Completely backwards. And 3 of those months, as they were awaiting charges, were spent in a prison cell. I thought that was completely wrong, completely backwards. People were upset with me because they wanted me to have asked him questions about that case. And the truth is, I hadn't looked into it until after I interviewed him. And then when I did look into the case, I was very committed to the idea that what was happening in Romania to him were a bunch of trumped up charges. I did an entire episode dedicated to breaking down the case. And after looking into it, it was completely ridiculous. Honestly, that is my belief. I thought that Andrew Tate would be found not guilty in Romania of the charges that were brought against him. If you're interested in how I came to that conclusion, you are welcome to go back and watch the older episode where I break down that case. We will include it in the link in the bio on YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube. Now, what's happened since then is that things looked very much like they were going in that direction in terms of the courts. In January of this year, Andrew and his brother won an appeal. They were challenging Romanian authorities and their seizure of his assets. It was completely ridiculous. Despite there being no charges, they confiscated a ton of stuff, cars, money, 15 luxury cars, 14 designer watches, plus cash in various currencies worth an estimated 3.6 million euros or $3.9 million. All of that seized without having even brought charges. So yes, they said, you know what, we're going to reopen this. We're going to take a look at those seizures. Doesn't really make sense. And then on top of that, while they had initially had them in prison, they moved them to house arrest. And then from house arrest, they said, actually, you can move all throughout Romania. So again, things look like they were treading in the right direction for the Tate brothers until last night or this morning. If you're here in America, we woke up and wow, something has happened. And that something that has happened, well, Andrew Tate predicted it. Take a listen to a prediction that Andrew made recently.
As we speak right now, and I'll say this publicly, as we speak right now, the UK is trying to put me in jail. England, because Romania has failed, so England has picked up. And England's coming up to me with all this garbage, and they're going to try and charge me soon with some imaginary crimes.
Maybe it's why they'll drop the documentary.
Well, there you go. Of course, because you have to poison the public's mind.
Yep. To believe that you are this evil guy.
Right? So the UK is trying to put me in jail. And I'm saying this now on this podcast. Everyone listen to me. The UK is coming next. Romania's failed. UK's picked it up. And as the UK try and put me in jail, I sit and I wonder. I say, imagine being a prosecutor. I probably shouldn't say this stuff. I'm just going to say it. And you get paid, I don't know, $3,000 a month or whatever, $2,000 a month. And you're sitting there just looking through my whole life for months. Oh, he made money. Oh, that's a lot of money. That must be a crime. A Ferrari. Oh, that's a crime. Oh my God, and he has a nice watch. Crime. And just sitting there, the obsession. And for like 6 months, just sitting there,
just analyzing
obsessed.
everything. Yeah.
It's kind of weird that there's all these full-grown adults with this much obsession, making documentaries, trying to take me down, prosecutors in dark rooms going through my life trying to take me down, ex-girlfriend blowing up my phone who I don't reply to anymore. Everyone's just like, it's weird. And I just wake up going, there's so many other people's lives which are just intertwined with mine or obsessed with the idea of trying to be involved in mine.
And I can add to that prediction when I can tell you going on in the background, because obviously, like I said, there was a pre-existing relationship there, is that Andrew had informed me that weird things were happening in the UK. Like, as he's dealing with this case in Bucharest, he has friends that are messaging him saying, oh, the UK government has knocked on my door. They're asking questions, or they stopped me to ask questions, asking if I've ever been sexually trafficked by you. Utterly bizarre, again. So what ended up happening last night, or this morning, Andrew and his brother Tristan were detained again on Monday over alleged sexual aggression in a UK case dating back to 2012. Allegedly, 4 women say that between 2012 and 2015, that they reported Tate to the UK authorities for alleged sexual violence and physical abuse. And the Crown Prosecution Service, just to be clear, the CPS, that authority declined to prosecute him based on the evidence that those women had presented. So what happened next? Well, the alleged victims then went to crowdfunding. They publicly funded an effort to support their legal costs to pursue Andrew Tate and his brother civilly. So again, just to make that clear, the Crown declined to prosecute him criminally. And so they said, you know what, we're just going to go after you civilly. And that is the reason that he received a knock on his door and him and his brother are being detained. So right now, it's a limbo. The Romanian government has to make a pivotal decision, and they will make that decision on Tuesday as to whether or not they will execute on the warrants that have been issued by the UK's Westminster Magistrates Court. Now, a couple of things I want to say here about how strange this is. First and foremost, we're talking about a civil suit. The amount of effort that it takes to contact Romanian authorities to issue warrants, to make him appear for this civil suit. I'm just not clear on any of this. First and foremost, despite the fact that there are multiple countries that, yes, they have extradition treaties, it takes the most extreme circumstances for one country to say, you know what? No, we actually are going to want to extradite on that. You have to be talking about a case where you're dealing with a drug lord. Seriously, there's just got to be billions of dollars. It's Mexico, and you're like, you know what? We want to actually extradite that criminal drug lord because this case means a lot for us, to us. We don't typically see this. I don't know if we've ever seen this pertaining to a civil suit. Now, I want to be clear. I've always been very honest. When looking at the case that was happening in Bucharest, as I said earlier, it looked like complete fluff. It looked pointedly ridiculous to me. And I will be honest, I have not had the time to examine whatever case was brought forth from these women back in 2012 that they are now suing for civilly. But I will say that just off the bat, it's giving E. Jean Carroll vibes. It's giving, okay, this is the man that we want to take down, and now we will find a reason to take him down. And we know that the courts will side with us. Exactly what happened when E. Jean Carroll said, oh, you know what? A thing happened between me and Trump back in the 90s, and I'm just descending out of this fog, and I want to make sure something happens to him. And then the person, one of the people who founded LinkedIn, got behind her. You know, it failed criminally, and they got behind E. Jean Carroll civilly, and then she won.